1995 Mustang GT. Picked this thing up Thanksgiving week a few weeks back for 1,200 bucks. Now it does run and drive, but it is a bit of a pile. I mean, after all, it's only $1,200. But it's a 95, which last year the 5-liter. This era 5-liter. It's automatic with a 180. Which, if this thing was a 5-speed, it'd been Motorby had it. Same thing with transmission, along with the rear end. Biggest thing's of course, the paint's crap. You can see, like, if the glare's going to end up getting it. Clear coat's just coming off. This is at least one bad spot I can see with some body work on it, which ain't super thick. You can see it peeling up though, which it wasn't like that when I bought the car. But I've been trying to mess with it, working on it, so opening and closing the door. Still has the old 16s, which the fronts look fine. The problem is Ford did not make them with a different offset for the rear, so they're sunk in and it looks stupid as all get out. And a damn gap on that. Quick walk around on it. It's missing the ground effect piece down there. Probably the worst spot on the paint. The lady I bought it from, it was she called him her biological father, so I guess they weren't very close. And she bought it to fix up, and then hadn't had any time or money to do it, so she had it listed. And it was listed on Craigslist of all places, which was I don't check it very often, but hell, I need to start checking now. And she had it listed for $2,000. Basically just said it needs to be jumped off. Don't know if it's the alternator or battery, and it needs tires. It needs some work, that kind of thing. So Messenger, ended up meeting her the next day. Tried jumping it off, it wouldn't crank up. It'd turn over, it wouldn't fire. So I'm like, what will you take for it? She's like, I need at least 1,000. I'm like, that's too low, I'll give you 15. She's like, that's too high, we'll go 12 or 1,300. I'm like, okay, that was kind of the weirdest negotiation. I ended up giving her 13. She still ended up giving me 100 back. So, which is nice, because then it gives money to spend on it. And so I ended up grabbing some tools, bought another new battery for it, went to go work on it, and put the battery in it. It fired right up. I'm like, oh wow. Of course, it idled up, then idled down, and just went dead. I'm like, well, okay, great. Tried again, did the same shit. Idled up, died back down. I'm like, all right, well, grabbed all the tools and just put all that shit up. I'm like, well, I'm gonna get this thing out of here. Just have to maybe run a couple stop signs. So got it fired up, back up again. Just kept feathering the gas and got it out of there. And had to run a couple stop signs, but it wasn't too bad. I didn't have to like cut anybody off or anything like that, cause an accident. But got over here, which is nice because it was only 3 minutes from my dad's place. That's where I'm filming it at right now. So when I was driving it, it was only after like a minute or so, I noticed the temp gauge was reading real high, and then it just pegged itself, which I'm like, there's no way it can be overheating that fast. And of course, when I got home and checked the radiator, it wasn't even hot at all or anything like that. It also seemed to have a little bit of a delay getting into overdrive, which might be a throttle position sensor. It might just not be running a while. You can see the tires where the car had been sitting. So, but we'll get this. Big thing is, like with the idle, I've been trying to mess with it, which I think I got it fixed. Do this. The car obviously set. I think it might have been whenever our father got, maybe someone before, because she basically said like he went blind and they had to get the car from him. But you can see like on one of the fuel injector wires, it's like it's been ate off, and on the idler controller, and a little bit on the throttle position sensor, which is kind of important. It has to do with the idle and all that stuff, which I think I actually got it fixed now. It basically, it needed to be, the idler control needed to be cleaned, but also First thing I did was I went to clean the throttle body, and it had a Canon air filter, but it wasn't fitting right. There was something missing on it. It was the rubber piece on it. So I ended up just buying a factory air filter, put that on it. Of course, the mass air meter was dirty as all get out as well. Throttle body was dirty, and that kind of thing. You can also see the way they rigged up the overflow, which I got a new part for that. And it has a belt squeal, which they replaced. The idler and the tensioner still squealed, but you notice there's a groove missing on. That's because this is like a 5-groove belt when it should be a 6-groove. They bypassed the smog pump. I got a smog pump delete, so I can just run a factory belt on it and be done with it. But when I was messing with the idle trying to get it fixed, it would still just crank up and, you know, idle down, want to go dead. And then normally I would just give it gas after I cleaned the idle air controller. But and then finally I just went ahead and just tried to let it go dead, and it didn't actually go dead. It actually just idled down like it was about to go dead and brought itself back up. And then the following day, cranked it back up, no idle issue. So I guess it just needed to not mess with it, not give it any gas, let the idle figure itself out. But get this thing cranked up, but it'll have a belt squeal. It does have Flowmaster mufflers on it as well. Get in here. It is cold, so I'm not sure how it's going to crank up. But yeah, you can see the K&N. No rubber seal on it, so I just bought one of them parts house, and that's the smog. Try this thing. Also, this is the jankiest ignition key they put on as well. As we run now, there it goes. Yeah, see, god dang it, there's the temp sensor. So that temp sensor pegged. It stayed pegged for like the last 2 weeks, and finally the other day it finally kind of reset itself, but now it's doing its usual thing. Yeah, see what it'll idle. It's gonna be cold, so it's gonna probably idle up a lot longer. I had a 94 years ago. It was dark green with tan interior, and sold it after about 5 years. Took a nice loss. I'll have to put a bunch of money into it, but just didn't need it anymore. And then I saw this thing listed. I'm like, well, hell, it's hard to beat the price. Yeah. Another thing also, whenever I was driving it, about a little short period, around $2,000, it seemed to have a bog in the throttle. It just real boggy, which I pulled one of the plugs. It is carbon fouled, which I'm going to go ahead and replace them. Another thing I also did was change the fuel filter, but the fuel looked fine and the filter seemed fine, so that wasn't it. But it may just needed that air filter changed to a correct one, or at least something had the rubber seal on it so it's still correct. Mass air needed to be cleaned, throttle body cleaned, and the idle air controller cleaned out. But yeah, see, it's idling up pretty good. Normally it'll drop down a little bit more than that, but it's cold right now. But also, like even the oil pressure, I don't think it even moves, and neither does the gas gauge. But yeah, see, a little boggy there. It'll rev up fine. Seems to make decent power. I don't think it's kind of burning any oil or anything like that, but just needs a lot of just tinkering with it and stuff. But let me that damn belt squeal. But yeah, so I mean, for $1,200, I'd have killed for something like this in high school. 20 years ago, I paid 2,500 bucks for my first Mustang. It was an 87. Motor had it, had a best second gear, rear end had it, rusty piece of shit. So, but things I got planned for it, I plan on pulling the upper intake, which I'd rather not deal with, but I also want to check any of the wiring out underneath in case any of that is chewed up, just in case. That would at least tape them off. I also like the of course the overflow, put the smog pulley on it. I also want to go ahead and put, it's a pain in the ass to get to. It can be done as PCV stuff as well. I got some O2 sensors on the way, change the plugs, a couple other little things. I got new temp sensors as well, and to replace the sensor, and then the sensor's over here. But not like I need another project, but considering what shape it's in and the price, pretty good one, I think. Y'all take it easy.